And thanks for coming along today. I think in Year 12 you're doing a really good thing to come out and just explore some of the options that we've got and for various careers and different training and different places. So you've started early and it's a good place to be. We've got quite a lot to get through today and so it could get a little manic at some points, but I'll just see how it goes. I've never done this one before, never done this demonstration, and hopefully it'll work. And you'll notice everyone should be sitting at a seat where there's something in front of them they can actually play with later, okay? So the one thing at the moment, don't open the containers just yet. I'll tell you when we need to use those things. My name's Colin Fee and I'm the head of the School of Product Design here at Canterbury. It's a new school that we've started up. It has our first intake of students next year, and I'm running around this year organising that, designing the space, getting the teaching going, getting the courses and hiring staff. And I have about 3 months in the middle of the year going over to the UK, based at the University of Cambridge, figuring out what it is they do overseas at various design schools and bringing some of that back here to Canterbury. So for me, this is new. I was the Dean of Engineering until about a month or so ago, but I think this degree here is something that's really sorely needed in New Zealand, and I'm really proud that we're able to offer it. So we're going to talk about games, gadgets and goo, which are the three majors, I guess, of our new product design degree, Design with an Edge. So I think that smart, creative, tech-savvy designers are going to be at the heart of New Zealand's future growth. I really do believe that. So Paul Callaghan was a famous scientist in New Zealand, passed away a couple of years ago, but he said exactly the same thing. And in fact, if we had about 100 more entrepreneurs in the country, then we could have double the wealth that we have at the moment. And I think that that's something that New Zealand sorely needs. And we haven't been really producing those with the current degrees that we've been doing across the country. There's nothing wrong with most of them. There's all sorts of career paths you can take, but this one here introduces something quite new and unique. So here you can see it's a 3-year degree, and if you're not familiar with the credit system, normally you do 120 points worth of credits every year of a degree. And so this one being 3 years is 360 degrees credits. And of that, just over a third of that is in the design space. And so that's around project-driven, hands-on type concepts and design. A little bit under 1/2 is in science and or engineering. Now, those are not in those more difficult kind of engineering topics where you need a lot of maths. They're in the sorts of engineering that you need to be able to produce a new product. And then 60 points in business. And I hope to show today in the things that I'm going to talk about why all three of those elements are really important. And when you blend them into one degree, you're going to come out with something very powerful. If you look around this room, there's very little in here that hasn't been designed in some way. You know, that camera right there, the data projector, this computer, the screen, the whiteboard, you know, your glasses, your sports shoes, the desk. So, you know, any idea that there aren't jobs out there for designers is incorrect. There are lots of jobs out there, I think, for designers and plenty of scope for new businesses. Why it's new in New Zealand and relatively unique is we have blended up science and engineering with design so that we have the whole creative side, the whole artistic side of design, and then we've given that some backup with some technical feasibility so you can understand enough about science and engineering to know whether your concept will work or not. And that's the main thing that I want to get across. There are plenty of designers out there who can do lovely concepts, but actually you can never make it and it'll never work. And what we want is for you to have wonderful, inventive ideas, but to actually have just enough in your background to be able to figure out how the thing is actually going to work. And then you can get something that's actually going to work at the end. So there are going to be 3 majors, and those are the things we're going to talk about today. Industrial product design, those are the gadgets. Applied immersive game design, those are the games, obviously. And then the chemical, natural and healthcare product formulation, which is the goo. And you've got some goo in front of you right now that we're going to play with in just a short time. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Actually, the first practical experience is you're going to play with the goo. So if you have a look in front of you, you should all have a little jar with some stuff in it. That is shea butter. which is a vegetable oil extract. Now, I just want to point out before you go any further with this, if you've got any particular allergies to things like nuts, just be careful here. Yep, put it aside. This is all right, but the stuff in the little tube here, not so good, because it's got almond oil in it. Okay, almond oil might be okay, but you know that best, so don't do anything silly. Okay, so first of all, open up that jar, and if you have a sniff and put your finger in there and sort of touch this stuff, it's very waxy and it's kind of fatty. It's not very pleasant, so if you were going to make a product that's going to be a skin lotion, you would want to do something to soften that out and give it a bit of fragrance, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So take your other tube here and then use that little wooden spatula just to blend that in, just mash it all together. Now just be careful not to splash it around, and I don't want anyone's mums and dads writing to me and say you've just ruined your $500 school uniform by splashing oil all over it. So just tip that in, put the cap straight back on, okay, and then set that aside. Use this little stick here and just kind of mash it around until it's totally mixed in. Okay, so feel free to have a little sniff of that. Hopefully it smells a little better now, and it might just have the right kind of consistency, who knows. So congratulations, you've just made your first skin lotion. Maybe some of you have done this sort of thing before. And the questions that we have in terms of product design is, how did we decide what to put in there? What ingredients went into that? What's the overall concept of your product? If you look at the photo above here, this is from a person called Brianne West, who's a Christchurch woman who has started her own business called Atik, and she makes these solid beauty bars. And she's got an idea to get rid of packaging in the world, and she makes these things, ships them around the world now. But how did she figure out what she was going to put into that, how much it would cost, and whether it would be successful on the market? All right, so we're going to move ahead. For those of you who are not so interested in that sort of product formulation area, and look at industrial product design. Okay, so in terms of industrial product design, we're talking about all sorts of different things that, as I said before, we pointed those things out, and they are all the things around you that have to be designed in some way that humans are going to use. So they're not bridges necessarily, or buildings, or trains and planes, but they are the sort of things that you're going to use on an everyday basis. And you can make those things quite attractive, aesthetically pleasing and functional, and something that someone wants to buy. And it can be in the area that you're interested in looking at. Okay, can we keep the noise down a little now? I'm just trying to get through the next wave. You'll get a chance to talk again when we get to the next practical. Okay, so in our industrial product design, the example that I'm going to give you here is the Nespresso coffee machine. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have got these things at home. You've all seen them somewhere. But this started off as just someone's invention, someone's idea. They thought, why can't we have clean, convenient, easy coffee that we can make at home that's as good as what you get by a barista in a cafe? Now, they might not have quite got to that, but they've got pretty close to it. And if you look at the type of design, they've got these pods. Someone just thought that up. We'll have these capsules you can put in the machine, you push a button, it just brews your coffee, and away it goes. So it's a nice concept. And in terms of creative design, you can imagine all sorts of different ways in which you could put that machine together. So there's all sorts of different just design concepts. You can have a globe over here, you can have lighting under it, you can have the one over on the right hand side there, sort of got this sliding slot area, the multiple one there that's now coming out in some of the shops. So your imagination is the only thing that limits you in terms of what you could actually make one of these things look like. And you've got to decide what you can do to make that attractive. So that's from the creative design side, and it's really about applying your imagination. Now what I want you to do next is to use those little sachets that you have in front of you, hopefully you've been handed out, and just tear those open. And just wait while I give you an instruction. So what I want you to do, it's a kind of a moldable silicon rubber. So for about half an hour or so, that'll stay malleable. You can mold it around into whatever shape you want to. After about half an hour, it won't be as moldable again, and then over 24 hours, it'll just turn into rubber, essentially. Okay, so now you can shape that up, and what I want you to do just for a couple of minutes is to change the jar you've got in front of you, put the lids back on, and try and improve the jar in some way. I don't care how you do it. You might put an extra handle on it. You might put a hinge. It should actually adhere to the jar. You might make a base. You might make finger grips on the side. Okay, so if you can get that out of the sachet, that's your first task. If anyone's having trouble getting the sachet open, just put your hand up. Yeah, a few people. So we'll come around with scissors and help you open it up. Okay, so just while you're doing that, and while you're waiting and things, I might just show you something that's quite kind of cool, a new iPad with a pencil, and how we can do some design as we're going. So those little jars there look like ointment jars. They don't look very attractive to me. So I reckon we ought to have something that's a bit better than that. So let's try something. This application on the iPad with this pencil allows me to do some designs, and I can take that and send it straight off to a 3D printer if I want to do a prototype. So it's the sort of thing you might do in a product design degree. So here, first of all, I'll draw a circle. Okay, select the circle, move it across. I want that circle maybe to be about 20 millimeters radius. It's gotten a bit big. Now I can just move the perspective and I can extrude that out into a shape. And I want it to be maybe 20 millimeters high. So it's done that now. And now what I might do is just transform it a little bit. Move it up. And perhaps I'll round out the bottom because that looks a bit ugly at the moment. That's starting to look more like a jar that we might like for a cosmetics jar. So now with these tools I can do a shell. I can select the shape and I can hollow out the middle of it. And I'll make it say 2 millimeters thick. And so now we've got a jar. Okay, so I could take that and I can maybe use another tool here and use a bit of colour. Maybe something like that. And then say yes, and now I've got my jar that is a lot more attractive, and then I can send that off to a 3D printer and maybe actually print that out as a prototype and then try it time and time again until I get something I like. Okay, so if you just carry on maybe making those little modifications to your jars, that's fine, we'll carry on. So if I can have your attention back again. So now, why do we actually need the science and engineering behind this? We've done the concept, we want this nice looking coffee machine, we can draw it up and we can print it out and we can prototype it, but actually we need to understand just enough about that to actually know whether it's going to work. So how much energy do you have to put into the water to get it to heat up in the time that you're going to get it to heat up? What kind of pump do you need to get the right kind of pressure? And also what kind of material would you use to actually get that looking attractive and making it last long enough and making it strong enough? So there are different kinds of plastics and metals, maybe glass, all sorts of different types of things we could use to actually make that from. And we want to understand a little bit about material science so that we understand that. So those are the sorts of things we might learn in our science and engineering degree parts to actually know just enough about this. Now, we're not going to go to the extent of being an engineer, having to do all the calculus and stuff to really figure that out in depth, because we want to actually do the playful stuff as designers, but we need to know it's going to work, and then we hand it over to the engineers. They can do all the grunt work, all right? So they can do all the stuff to make it happen, but we can move on to our next project. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that we'd do. Okay, we're on to our third practical experience. I'm sorry we're trotting through this so quickly, but I wanted to give you an experience of each one of these things. And the third one is, hopefully you've seen those signs around. You got an email to download Quiver onto your smartphones. And if you have, you can do this, but if you haven't, I'll just show you how it works as well myself. So what I want you to do is place your jar, whether it's finished or not, onto the Games, Gadgets and Goo sheet. That's this one here. Okay, so put that in front of you, put the jar onto the circle. Okay, and you should have Quiver up there. And for those, you can do this later because you can take this home, you can do it from home, and we've got some extra examples for you. But if I point this thing at the page, so I can see the whole page, hopefully I can do that. Move that over a little bit. There we go. Oops, let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so now what you can see is you've got this three-dimensional game that you can play. We can select someone, and I'm going to get that character to chase around, pick up the ingredients for the goo, and throw it into the jar. The time they take to go running around the place, they get older and older and older, and when they throw an ingredient into the jar, they get younger again. So we're going to check this person out. All right, so now there's a jar, got to go and get it. See the age is going up, they're getting older, throw that in. Let's grab another one. What else have we got? I'm going to let them get old for you. Get that stuff. Well, good effort, but I missed out on the last ingredient, and you can see that the person's gotten a little bit older there. Okay, so that's the idea of the game. It's not a compelling game. It's worth doing once or twice, but some of the other things you've got there in front of you, the other Quiver sheets, are actually quite fun to play with. But in a game design program, you'd be learning about what makes a good game, what makes someone come back to it and want to use it time and time again and get better at it and use all the extra things. And what we'd be teaching is that virtual reality, augmented reality, to be able to do these sorts of things in practice. Okay, we're getting very close to the end here. I want to show you one more thing. This is an example of a gadget that I've got in my room, because the first thing I did when I became head of school was I set up a Vive system. And this is an application called Tilt Brush, where you can draw in three-dimensional space. So that's the first thing I did. I had to do some research. So I got one of these systems and put it in my office. And you can use these virtual reality systems to do all sorts of things. It's really incredible, but imagine being part of inventing those things. Not just using them, but actually inventing those types of new applications. Now, one more thing before we sort of finish off, I want to just go back to the idea of why do we need business in this degree? And that is that the product itself, no matter how good it is, doesn't work unless it's marketed well and unless it meets business demands. So what you can see here on this graph at the left-hand side there is the first patent went out in 1976. And then you look at that curve, and that's showing the growth in sales. And over on the right-hand side, you can see just a couple of years ago, it was up to $3.5 billion a year. But that really didn't start until around the early 2000s. So by that time, the patent had actually gone. And they needed some way of getting it there. They needed to change it from just having something that says, this is a really good functional product, to something you really wanted. And to do that, they had to go online, and then they had to create something around it, these Nespresso clubs that made you want to be part of it. And the look and feel was incredibly important. And in 2006, they got George Clooney on board to start doing some of the advertising. And look at the way in which the whole thing took off from there. So it's not enough just to make a product. It's not enough just to make it cool. You've got to understand a bit of marketing, a bit of management to actually make it. So we have the concept, the art, the creative part. We've got the science and engineering to make sure it's feasible. And then we've got the marketing business to make sure it's actually a product that works. So I'm going to finish off with a 1-minute clip here from Brianne West, who is a local businesswoman who runs Ethique. And we'll let her talk for herself.
Working out how to formulate products that was relatively easy. I just learned all about ingredients and what to do and stuff together. Yeah, I had nothing and anything else. You know, I didn't have the extra people, I didn't know how to do administration. I didn't know nothing about accounts or sales or anything else. I was flying blind a lot of the time. And it would have been really useful. Just an overall branding and lots of other things. Having all those different skills is going to be much more useful in the real world than just being good at organic chemistry or whatever. To my knowledge, this is the only degree licensed in the country, and because of that, it'll be a great time to degree. Having people who go through this degree will be able to talk to you about marketing, design, or, and again, product formulation. So when you hire an engineer, you're also going to get some other engineers about things around you. And that's really important, particularly when you have a small team, to be able to ask every person what they think about doing.
Okay, so that's it for us at the moment. Next year we're taking our first year of intake. That's your year 13, and then the next year you'll be coming in here second lot through if you actually decide to do this type of degree. Thank you again for coming along. You feel free to take any or all of that stuff home with you. Use the paper towels there just to wipe off the oil and get rid of that, and that would be appreciated. Thanks very much. See you later.